Two individuals, two terrifying tales. Join us as we uncover the dark secrets behind these haunting experiences. Whether it's a mysterious phone call from a distant land or a ghostly presence in a seemingly ordinary home, these stories will send shivers down your spine. Want to hear more scary stories? Let's make this channel the go-to place for spooky stories. Like, subscribe, and share with your fellow horror enthusiasts. I'm Ethan James Carter. I live in a small town called Salem, Massachusetts. I'm 18, and I just graduated high school. It was the last day of August, and everything seemed peaceful, or so I thought. It was 8:17 p.m. when my phone rang. I was home alone. My parents were out for dinner. An unknown number flashed on the screen. I picked up. A woman's voice, old and raspy, said without any introduction, "Tell Jenny it's time to come home." "Excuse me, you must have the wrong number," I replied quickly. A moment of silence. Then, the line went dead. 30 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same voice, same sentence. "Tell Jenny it's time to come home." Now I was getting uneasy. "Please," I said, "you definitely have the wrong number. I'm Ethan Carter. There's no Jenny here." Then something happened that sent chills down my spine. The woman's voice, cold as ice, said, "I know you're Ethan James Carter. You were born on April 12th, 2005, at Massachusetts General Hospital. Your father is a lawyer at Goldman & Partners in Boston. You have a small, hinged tattoo on the inside of your right wrist. A tattoo you haven't shown anyone except your girlfriend Emma last summer." My heart pounded in my chest. How did this stranger know all these details? Details I hadn't shared with anyone. Panic started to claw at my chest. My thoughts raced faster than I could keep up, like lightning bolts cutting through the darkness. Who was this woman? What did she want? Why was she talking about Jenny? My memories became fragmented, hallucinatory. Every detail I knew about myself seemed to be twisting into a nightmare, waiting to unfold. And then, in that endless second, I realized this call wasn't a coincidence. This was just the beginning of something that surpassed my wildest fears. The clock ticked like a cosmic heartbeat, each second a hammer blow to my already fragile sanity. This wasn't just fear. It was an existential terror that reached deep into the core of my being. What could happen? My thoughts grew darker, like a shadow slowly devouring the last remnants of light. I imagined scenarios that crossed the boundaries of reason. Maybe Jenny was a ghost seeking revenge. Perhaps she was a victim of something or someone I was yet to discover. Or maybe I was part of some horrifying experiment that surpassed my wildest suspicions. Hallucinations began to attack me like hungry beasts. I saw shadows flickering across the walls of my room. I heard whispers that came from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And then, after an hour had drained all hope of oblivion, the phone rang again. Same voice, same sentence. "Tell Jenny it's time to come home." "Who are you?" I screamed into the phone. "What do you want?" The answer was as cold and lifeless as a death certificate. "Jenny knows why." I tried to find out more. I asked questions that piled up in my mind like storm clouds, but the voice remained the same, like a machine repeating the same instruction. "Tell Jenny it's time to come home." Each repetition of this sentence seemed to strip away a piece of my soul, a piece of my sanity. It was as if every spoken word was tearing a piece of my identity, leaving only a pale shadow of who I once was. Jenny. Who is Jenny? Why was it so important that she come home? And whose home was that? The hallucinations became more intense. The rooms around me seemed too big, yet too full of unseen threats. Shadows danced their dark dance, and the phone remained silent after the voice faded. I didn't know if I was still awake, or if I had already sunk into a nightmare with no escape. The phone rang again. This time, my patience was exhausted. My voice trembled, but it was electrified with unwavering determination. "Listen," I shouted into the phone. "If you call me one more time, I'm calling the police. I won't tolerate these creepy calls." A moment of silence. Then, a completely different tone. An official, formal voice of a nurse. "Mr. Carter," she said, "I'm so sorry to call you like this. We're calling from the peaceful Sunset Retirement Home. Your grandmother, Jennifer Margaret Carter, has just passed away. We were with her in her final moments." The world around me stopped. The tectonic plates of my thoughts began to shift, revealing hidden geological layers of memory. Jenny. My grandmother. Everyone in the family always called her Jenny. In that moment, all the mysterious pieces of the previous calls began to fit together in a hallucinatory mosaic. Had I been talking to a ghost? Was her spirit trying to tell me something? I never learned the true truth, and maybe it didn't matter to know. All I knew was that I was alone. Alone with memories. Alone with voices fading into silence. Alone with the suspicion that there are dimensions of reality that are always close to us, yet infinitely far away. Jenny came home. But to which home? My name is Michael Harrison Brady. I live in a suburban neighborhood in Beaverton, Oregon, about 20 minutes west of Portland. I was 38 years old, working as a software engineer at a local tech company, and I never thought anything unusual would happen to me. The night was cold. A chilly wind was rattling the windows of my modern house, which stood at the end of a cul-de-sac, surrounded by tall pine trees that created a sense of complete isolation. The clocks showed 2 o'clock and 3 minutes in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. Something was bothering me, a vague sense of unease that was pressing on my chest. My mobile phone lay beside me on the nightstand. The screen was dark, silent. The sound that followed was sharp, piercing. The ring of the phone that filled the entire room in a somehow eerie, different way than usual. I looked at the number, an interstate call, but not from Oregon. Strange, unusual, a foreign number. I told myself I didn't have to answer, but something pushed me. An inner, irresistible curiosity that compelled me to pick up the phone. "Hello?" I said, my voice hoarse from the night silence. And then everything changed. First quiet, then louder and louder. A female vocalization that was neither a scream nor a cry, but something in between. A sound that spoke of fear. Real, raw fear. "Help. Please." A whisper, barely audible, filled with despair. A few seconds of complete chaos. Screams, noises, something that sounded like metal resonating. And then, complete silence. A quiet, deaf silence that was almost more terrifying than the previous sounds. I looked at the phone screen. The call had lasted only a few seconds. The number that called was from Moldova, a small, almost unknown European country that I couldn't even locate on a map without looking at Google. Why would someone from Moldova call me in the middle of the night? I didn't know anyone there. I had never been to that country. I had no professional or personal connections to that geographic point. My brain started to construct scenarios faster than I could control them. A scam. A wrong number. Or something worse. Much, much worse. The night grew denser. My thoughts swarmed like electrified beings searching for an exit. I remember looking out the window a few times, searching for some kind of answer in the darkness that surrounded me. But the darkness didn't answer. It just remained silent. The clock ticked. The second hand ruthlessly devoured minutes, and I still sat there, staring at the phone, trying to understand what had just happened. The clock showed 2:37. The mobile phone lay in front of me like a kind of incriminating evidence of some incomprehensible crime that was yet to happen. A Moldavian number. The first question that ran through my mind was, should I call back? My reason told me no. What if it was some kind of scam? What if someone had accidentally dialed the wrong number? Or worse, what if it was a trap? No, better not call back. But then another thought hit me. The police. Maybe they could explain this strange scenario. But as soon as I formulated that thought, I started to counter-argue myself. Which police? Portland. They won't be the least bit interested in the fact that I received an unusual call from a distant, almost exotic country. No crime has been committed. Nobody was hurt. Even the threat wasn't clear. The police would just laugh at me, thinking I was a fool who was staring into the middle of the night and calling them about some foreign number. Google. Google always has answers. I turned on my laptop. My fingers were nervous as I typed in the number. The international calling code for Moldova. Everything looked completely normal. The 19th code, standard format. But then I started digging deeper. Google was my only weapon at that moment. With fingers trembling with tension, I began researching cases of similar night calls, and what I found was astonishing. An internet security forum had an entire discussion about identical calls. People from different parts of the United States, from Portland, Chicago, Atlanta, described almost the same scenario. A call in the dead of night, an unknown number from Moldova, eerie female screams in the background, complete silence. Several forum users described how out of curiosity or fear they called the number back, and what they discovered was surprisingly banal, but at the same time cruel. It was a sophisticated phone scam. The mechanism was simple but effective. When someone called back, an international call with high tariffs would automatically be activated. Every second of the conversation would cost tens of dollars. In a few minutes, the victim would have a bill of several $1,000s. The psychological trick was brilliant. Using a female voice in the background, screams that cause discomfort, mystery that drives people to seek an explanation. And the explanation was, in fact, completely prosaic. Money. Always money. The FBI, as I found out, was aware of this type of scam. International criminal groups have been using these techniques for years to massively extort money from naive or curious victims. I was just another potential target in the endless chain of these scams. The mysterious night call. It ended as an ordinary scam.